I tightened the last screw on the crib and stepped back, proud but exhausted. "She's going to love this," I said quietly. Even though Rachel wasn't in the room, it felt right to say it out loud. The nursery smelled like paint and lavender. Pink curtains fluttered a little from the ceiling fan. "Baby girl Carter, your dad is ready for you." Rachel walked in, hand pressed to her back. "She's kicking again," she groaned. I looked up, smiled. "Another karate move." She nodded. "Slowly, feels like she's training in there." I crossed the room. "Come here, let me feel it." She took my hand and placed it gently on her belly. I waited. "There it is," I whispered. "She's strong." Rachel smiled, but her eyes were heavy. "Midnight snack runs are paying off." "All for a pint of pickle ice cream," I said, laughing. "Totally worth the weird looks at the store. Whole aisle saw you begging the employee to check the back fridge." "They didn't have banana flavor," I mumbled. I panicked. She chuckled, then leaned her head on my shoulder. "You're going to be an amazing dad, Eli." I almost said thank you, but the words caught. "I just want her to have what we didn't." Rachel nodded, quiet now. "She will." 2 weeks later, it happened. My water just broke. Rachel shouted from the bathroom. I dropped my toothbrush. "Wait, what? Are you sure?" She held up soaked pajama pants. "You think I dumped water on the floor for fun, right? Okay. Hospital, let's go." Keys, wallet, car seat, hospital bag by the door. I moved like a robot. My brain couldn't keep up with my hands. At the emergency desk, I half-healed my wife's in labor. "Rachel Carter," the nurse typed quickly. "One moment, sir. She's having contractions. She needs a room now." The nurse tilted the screen, frowned. "I'm not seeing her in the system." "What?" I leaned in. "Check again." "Rachel Carter." Maybe under her maiden name. "Kingsley," she typed again. "I'm sorry, still no match. There's no prenatal record here." "There has to be. She's been here for checkups. We saw Dr. Hassan. We scheduled the delivery." She gave me a blank look. "We don't have anything scheduled under that name either." Rachel squeezed my arm. "I need to lie down." The nurse nodded and waved over a tech. "We'll take her in for assessment. But we'll need record scans, doctor's notes, blood work, anything you have." "They're all online," I said. In her email, Rachel didn't respond. In the room, I sat beside her as she lay unnaturally still. A nurse came in to do a quick scan. "Let's take a look at baby's position," she said kindly. The goo hit Rachel's belly. The tech moved the wand side to side. Her eyebrows shifted. "Everything okay?" I asked. "I'm just not seeing much," she said slowly. "Let me adjust the equipment." Rachel closed her eyes. "I'm sorry," the nurse said gently. "I'm not detecting a pregnancy currently." My heart stopped. What do you mean?" She turned off the machine. "We're going to call for the on-call doctor. Please stay calm." The door shut. I turned in my seat to face Rachel. "What the hell is going on?" Her voice barely came out. Maybe it's a mistake." "A mistake?" My voice cracked. "You're not pregnant." I thought I was. I stared at her. Everything around me suddenly looked unfamiliar. "You showed me ultrasounds. You had cravings. Morning sickness." "I thought I was," she repeated weakly. "At first, and then I asked, 'What changed?'" She didn't answer. "You told me she kicked," I said. "You let me talk to her." "I didn't want to lose you," she whispered. I stood slowly. "You never had me. Not the real me. Just the full version." I looked at the monitor one last time. No heartbeat, no baby, just silence. I didn't sleep. Just sat in that hospital chair, staring at the wall, while Rachel pretended to sleep beside me. My hand rested on my knee, clenched. Words buzzed in my head like hornets. I thought I was. That line, over and over. Like it explained everything. Like it erased the lies. I leaned forward. "Rachel, wake up." She opened one eye, then turned to face me. "What time is it? You need to talk to me." She rubbed her face. "About what?" "About all of it." Silence. "There's no baby," I said softly. "No medical file. No heartbeat. The nurse didn't even see signs of a recent pregnancy. She exhaled hard. How many times do I have to say it? I thought I was pregnant. Thought I repeated. You had me build a crib, talk to a belly, throw a baby shower. And you're telling me this was a guess. I had symptoms. She sat up now. I wasn't lying, at least not at the start. The sonograms. I downloaded them. The vitamins, the appointments. I faked emails. Set calendar reminders. Took random pills. Mostly placebos. You lied, not just to me. You lied to my mom. To our families. To yourself. Rachel winced. I just kept going until I couldn't anymore. I stood up. If they hadn't brought in that scanner, how long were you going to keep the lie alive? She didn't answer. I stepped back from the bed. That wasn't just illusion, Rachel. That was performance. Tears welled in her eyes. You don't understand. I was scared. You should be now. She looked at me, startled. That's not what I meant. I grabbed my bag and slung it over my shoulder. I can't do this. You're leaving. There's no reason to stay. You're not even going to let me explain, she whispered. There's more you don't know. I've heard enough truths from you today to last a lifetime. I turned toward the door. Eli, please. I stopped. Don't say my name like it still belongs to you. Back in the parking lot, I just stood there for a long time, staring at nothing. Eventually, I found myself dialing Nate's number. He picked up right away. Everything about me was falling apart. I told him she wasn't expecting. That blew everything open. She had never been. Scans showed no signs. No heartbeat, no record in the hospital system. Nothing. I couldn't answer him. I just stood there, dumbfounded. He reminded me I had built a whole nursery, with my hands, painted clouds. Screwed in every bolt. She downloaded someone else's scans. Every piece of it was fake. He said it was beyond anything he had heard. I agreed. The car roof felt cold under my hand. I told him I felt like a lunatic, for believing all of it. But he told me I wasn't. I was just all in. She played me. And now, I was burning the lie down bit by bit. I was going home alone. When I unlocked the front door, I didn't recognize it anymore. Same wall paint, same carpet, same hallway. But it didn't feel like mine. The nursery door was open. I stepped in. The mobile still turned lazily above the crib. Pinned to the corkboard were fake sonograms. I stared at one. It wasn't ours. Someone else's baby, a name typed in digital font. Baby girl Carter, minus 30 weeks. I pulled it off, then another, and another, until the board looked the way I felt inside. Empty. Rachel had built a fantasy, and I had moved into it. Smiling, supporting. Stupid. How do you mourn something that never existed? You just do. My phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. She said she didn't know how to stop once it started. Said she never meant to hurt me. I watched the screen. Then I hit delete. No reply. No spark left. I wasn't planning to go back into her room. I just wanted to grab my charger from her hospital bag. That's it. But when I opened the zipper, I saw her phone sitting right there on top. Lit up. A message still glowing. Brandon, got the papers yet? I'm tired of pretending. Brandon, I froze. I'd never heard of him before. My thumb hovered. Then I did what I had never done in our entire marriage. I opened her phone. No password. She trusted me with everything, except the truth. I clicked on the messages. His name was pinned. Brandon. The thread scrolled like vomit. Brandon, how much longer is this game gonna last? Rachel, let me get through fake labor. He still buys it. Pathetic, right? Brandon, the man built a crib. For air, you have him wrapped. Rachel, once the property transfer goes through, it's done. My throat tightened. I scrolled up. More texts, voice notes, pictures, plans, even screenshots of account transfers. She warned him when I was home. Joked about how easily I believed her. Rachel, he read a baby book to my stomach last night. Almost cried. Brandon, he's not a man. He's a walking doormat. My pulse pounded in my ears. I looked over to the hospital bed. She was sleeping, or pretending to. I held her phone until my knuckles turned white. I whispered, "You let me love something that never existed." She stirred. "Eli." I turned the screen toward her. "Brandon, you forgot to delete the proof." She sat up fast. Where did you get my phone?" "From the bag you brought to fake a birth." "I knew you'd snoop." My laugh was sharp. "You gaslighted me for 8 months, and I'm the villain for reading your messages." "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said quickly. "You crafted a storyline, a full narrative. Baby kicks, baby names, midnight cravings. You bought fake test results. You handed me photos and said she was healthy." I panicked. "No," I said coldly. "You plotted." Rachel stood now, arms crossed. "So what happens? You scream at me. Leave me here alone. Make yourself feel better." I shrugged. "You're already alone. You just don't feel it yet." "That's dramatic." "No," I said. "You just think this is another scene you can act through." She opened her mouth, then hesitated. "I didn't do it to hurt you." "Then why?" I snapped. She bit her lip. "I didn't feel seen anymore. You were always working, always tired. But when I told you I was pregnant, you lit up. You smiled again. You touched me like it mattered, because I thought you were carrying my child." "I wanted us back," she whispered. "And the sex with Brandon?" I asked. "Was that part of the healing process?" Her eyes darted away. "Right," I said. "Eli," she stepped closer. "You were kind, safe. But safe gets boring." I nodded slowly. "There it is. You're twisting everything." "No," I said softly. "I'm finally seeing it clearly." She lowered her voice. "Brandon didn't mean anything. He was just what? A tool." I cut in. "So was I, apparently." She paused. "It doesn't have to end like this." "Rachel," I said, "everything you touched turned to ash. And I'm the one who has to sweep it up." Tears welled in her eyes. "Please, I know I broke this. But maybe we can fix it." I stepped back. "Nothing you say now will make this less disgusting." Her voice cracked. I didn't know how to stop. "You stop at the first lie," I replied. "Not when you get caught." She sank onto the edge of the bed. "So, where do we go from here?" "I heal," I said. "You reckon with karma." "I never wanted to become this kind of woman, and I never wanted to meet one," I said. We sat in silence for a beat. Then I turned to the door. "I'll be out of the house by tomorrow." She looked up. "Wait, what? You can have your lies. But you're not keeping the keys." I walked away. She didn't call after me. The green folder was right where she left it. Top drawer, left side. I remembered the night she handed it to me. After dinner, she said, "Just sign these, for the baby's future. In case something happened to her." I thought it was love. I thought it was trust. But now I saw it for what it really was. I opened the folder, scanning the pages. My name, her signature, my mother's address. And then, one deadly line: transfer of power over family-owned estate to Rachel Carter. Spouse, in the event of medical emergency or guardianship need. I whispered to myself. She tried to take my mom's house. I reached for my phone and called Nate. He picked up immediately. I told him I didn't think it had been a mistake. I told him she almost pulled it off. Remember those papers she had me sign last month? I asked him, the ones she cried through. She said they were about postnatal rights, but it was all a lie. It had nothing to do with medical authority. It was about property transfer. I had given her legal leverage over my mom's estate, all tied to a baby that never even existed. Nate went silent, then said slowly, "That's fraud, man." And I knew it was. She planned it, step by step. She told me to sell Dad's storage unit for crib money. She asked me to change the will. I thought it was family. I thought it was love. But it wasn't. "You need a lawyer," Nate told me. I was already reaching for one. Rachel came home 3 days later. No baby, no diagnosis. Just a stack of paper referrals and a therapist's number she'd never call. She walked in and saw me packing a duffel bag. She asked what I was doing. I said, cleaning up the mess. She walked closer, said she was sorry, said she wasn't going to make excuses. She said she'd messed up. I said, yeah, you did, and then she gave me the lie. That hurt more than any other. She said she didn't do it for money, that she wasn't trying to steal from me. She just wanted something real. I looked at her. Real. You faked a pregnancy. You invited a stranger into my home. You mocked me in text messages. You printed fake medical reports. You lied about appointments. You used my mother's sickness. You tried to rewrite legal documents behind my back. Her eyes welled with tears, but I was done crying. I stepped closer and told her, that's not love. That's a con. You didn't love me. You conned me. She wiped a tear, said she didn't mean for it to go that far, but she went farther. And then she nodded, like she already knew what was coming. So this is it, she asked. You made it, I said. She looked right at me, said she still loved me. My jaw tightened. Then why does it feel like I've been grieving a ghost this whole time? She reached toward me, maybe hoping she could pull me back in. Maybe we could talk, she said. Not anymore, I told her. She could talk to Maya now, my lawyer. She stopped, caught off guard. Maya, a lawyer. I held the folder up. Here's what you signed, and I got it reviewed. You're looking at civil fraud, forged documents, emotional abuse, and attempted property theft. Her voice cracked. You wouldn't, but I already did. She looked at me like she didn't recognize who I was anymore. But in that moment, I finally recognized myself. The front door closed behind me with a sound I'd never noticed before. Sharp. Final. I walked into the hallway and stopped. The air felt heavy. The house was too quiet. I looked at the nursery. The crib I built was still there. The mobile spun slowly, catching the light. I sat on the floor, back against the wall. My eyes landed on a photo of me holding a pink onesie. I remembered that day. I thought it was the best day of my life. I stared at the picture, then pulled it down. The frame cracked when it hit the floor. My phone buzzed. Nate, I answered, voice rough. Yeah, you home? Yeah, alone. Yeah. He paused. Want me to come by? I didn't answer. I brought food, he said. I'm outside. I almost smiled. You should have led with that. He came in with burgers and something sweet. Apple pie, he said, holding it up. You need sugar and grease. You know me too well. He sat beside me on the floor and handed me a burger. We ate in silence. Nate finally asked, You tell your mom. I shook my head. What do I say? Hey Ma, the kid you made a blanket for never existed. She'd want to know. She'd also want to kill Rachel. Tempting. I looked at the empty crib. You know what's weird? I still expect to hear a baby cry. Nate put down his food. Your brain built a world. Months of expecting, touching, talking to nothing. It doesn't feel like nothing. It feels like death. He nodded. I get it. No, you don't. He stayed quiet. I felt bad for snapping. Sorry, I muttered. It's fine, he said. If our places were switched, I'd be worse. I looked at him. Would you have known? What? Would you have seen through it? He shook his head. If someone looked me in the eyes and said, I felt your daughter kick, I'd believe them. Guess we're both idiots. He nudged me. No, we just loved the wrong person too much. I leaned my head back. What do I do now? Burn her stuff. Sue her. Find a therapist. Take a vacation. Depends on your revenge arc. I almost laughed. Revenge sounds exhausting. It is, he said. So what's the plan? I stared at the room. I can't stay here, you selling. Eventually. Until then, no crib. No nursery. No bottles. No fake memories. I'm packing everything up tomorrow. I don't care where it goes. Nate nodded. I'll help. Thanks. He stood and gathered the wrappers. At the door, he stopped. You're still a dad, you know. You just never had a baby. I blinked. What? You carried all the love, the hope, the dreams. That's the hardest part. I didn't answer. He left. I sat there for a long time, listening to the silence. When I finally stood, I walked into the nursery. The crib still smelled like fresh wood. I started taking it apart, screw by screw, piece by piece. Something kept bothering me about the guest room. I couldn't shake it. The bed always looked used, even when Rachel swore no one had been in there. I needed answers. So I went online and bought a cheap camera. It looked like an air freshener. I set it up on the bookshelf, facing the bed. I told myself this was just for peace of mind. I just wanted proof. I needed to know I wasn't crazy. The next night, the footage loaded onto my phone. I lay in bed alone, staring at the screen, dreading what I might see. The first clip opened. And then I saw him, Brandon, in my house, shirtless. He tossed one of my t-shirts onto the floor and laughed, like this was all some joke. Then she appeared, Rachel, hair wet, wearing my hoodie. She stepped over the clothes like she lived in his world now. And in a way, maybe she did. They laughed together, mocked my routines, said I'd probably write another letter to the baby, said I sang lullabies when I thought she was asleep. They weren't playing dumb, they were playing me. I paused the video. My skin crawled. Then I hit play again. Against my better judgment, Rachel sat on the bed, and with a voice I'd once trusted, she said, all she had to do was give me hope. Because hope, she said, makes a man stupid. Brandon leaned in. He asked if I ever figured it out. Rachel told him no, because I never wanted to. Then she said something softer, something that broke me. She said, I never stopped loving her. And that's what made me easy. I stopped the video, honestly. I didn't need to see more, but I did. I watched it all, every second. 3 hours of them in my sheets, in my home, laughing at the man I used to be, at the life I was building. They opened my desk drawers. Rachel found my mother's medication list, read it out loud like it was comedy, laughed about how she was barely hanging on. Brandon sipped a beer and said we needed to rush things before my mom. Well, before she was gone. That was the switch. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was angry. And after that, I was focused. The next morning I met Nate at the cafe. I hadn't told him anything yet. He looked at me, already honest in his eyes. He asked what had happened. I told him. I had installed a camera in the house guest room. He raised an eyebrow. I told him it wasn't raccoons. It was 2 snakes. I slid my phone to him. He watched the video quietly, and then he swore under his breath. He asked me if I'd really watched the whole thing. I told him I did. Every second he looked at me, full of pity. He asked why. I told him, because I needed to stop loving her. He nodded and said, fair. I told him I was sending it to my lawyer. He said he'd sue for 3 lifetimes. I said, and 1 more. He asked if I thought she knew that I knew. I told him. She will soon. Nate leaned back in his chair. His voice softened. He asked me if I was okay. I didn't answer right away. But then I said it. No, but I'm better than I was. That night, I watched the footage again. Only this time, I wasn't shaky. I wasn't heartbroken. I saw them for what they were. 2 actors reading lines for a play they didn't know was closing by morning. I saved the clip, labeled it, exit wound proof. Then I looked around. I stared at the gray walls of my home. This place where I thought love lived. Now I saw it clearly. It had been a stage all along. And I wasn't even the lead. Maya's office was colder than I expected. Not the temperature, just the feeling. Everything in there was neat, sharp, serious. She flipped through the folder I brought. Her eyes stopped on the video stills. She looked at me and told me what I had. Video proof, text messages, forged documents, financial damages. She said, this wasn't just fraud. This was a full-blown con. I nodded. So what do we do? She said we'd file civil charges. Maybe criminal, restraining order, too. If I wanted it. And her, I asked. Maya looked up, told me clearly. She's going to regret ever meeting you. And something shifted inside me. I don't know if it was relief or power, maybe both. I told Maya I didn't want revenge. She raised an eyebrow, asked if I was sure, because I was sitting on a mountain of evidence. I told her I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. I wanted consequences. Maya just smiled a little, said quietly, "Same thing, really." 2 days later, the summons was served. Rachel hadn't even hired a lawyer. She thought all of it would just blow over. By day 3, she showed up at my door, no knocking, just pounding. I opened the door slowly. She was angry, shocked, said I was suing her, her voice full of disbelief. I stood my ground, told her she looked surprised. She raised her voice, said I filed fraud charges, said she could go to jail. Over what? She asked. A fake pregnancy, a few bad decisions. I told her no. For faking a pregnancy, for fabricating documents, for trying to steal my mom's house, for cheating on me, for lying for months in my own home. That's what she was facing. Her voice cracked. She said she couldn't undo what she did. But this, she said, waving the court papers. This was nuclear, I told her. You buried the landmine. I just stepped on it. She asked if I wanted to destroy her. I said no, you're doing that just fine on your own. She shook her head and told me. Brandon left, just disappeared. I tensed. Good, I said. She told me he blocked her, cleaned out her account. I blinked. So now you know what betrayal feels like. She crossed her arms, said he played me. Eli, I told her. You picked him, over and over. She looked down, then up again, her eyes watery, her voice desperate. Do I really deserve all this? She asked. I told her, I don't know. But I do know I didn't deserve what you did to me. She stepped closer, asked if we could just talk. I said no, she said. Just 5 minutes. No yelling, I told her. My voice is calm, but 5 minutes won't fix 5 months of lies. She begged me to look at her, told me she was sorry, said she was messed up, insecure, said she thought we were slipping, and she panicked. I told her no, you didn't panic, you planned, you crafted it, you rehearsed it, you carried it out. That wasn't panic, that was performance. Then she said something quiet. You never stopped loving me. I looked at her, and told her. I loved someone who wasn't real. That woman, she doesn't exist. Her whole posture collapsed. She asked me, what happens now? I said, you deal with the storm you created, and us, she asked. I looked her in the eyes, told her the truth. We ended the day, the nurse said. There is no baby. Later that night, Maya called. She told me she'd just gotten off the phone with Rachel's new lawyer. Apparently, Rachel had finally hired someone. Sort of. A panicked one. She was trying to settle, quietly. I asked Maya if she'd laughed in her face. She told me no. She just said that my silence would cost extra. Then she paused, and asked, You good? I took a look around. My eyes landed on the empty nursery, and I said honestly, I feel like the fog's lifting. She replied, Good, because next week we start the real work. Property, transactions, recovery. I told her, I'm ready. And for the first time in months, I meant it. 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. The handwriting was hers. Shaky, rushed, still unmistakably Rachel. It said, If you're reading this, I know you probably hate me. And I deserve that. She said none of it started as a game. That she really wanted the life we imagined. Even if she didn't know how to live it. She said she was sorry. Not for the consequences, but for breaking someone who only ever tried to love her the right way. I folded the letter once. Then I fed it to the shredder. No more rewrites. No more drama. This wasn't her story anymore. It was mine. I stared at Brandon's smug face on his social media profile. He called himself a marketing genius. I called him a parasite. I uploaded the hidden camera footage to a burner email. Cropped it clean. No fluff. Just Rachel and Brandon plotting fraud in my house. Then I wrote a short message to his company's HR. The subject line was simple. Employee involved in domestic fraud. Video attached. I hit send. 10 minutes later, an auto-reply came in. Thank you for contacting Silamark HR. We take all employee conduct seriously. I leaned back and waited. 2 days later, Maya called. She said, "You're going to want to hear this." I told her. "Tell me." She said Silamark had opened an internal review. Brandon was now off all accounts, suspended, pending investigation. I smiled and asked, while half naked. Another day passed. Then Rachel called. I let it go to voicemail. She tried again. Then she texted, asking where he was. Said Brandon wasn't answering. Then asked if I had done something. I stared at the screen quietly. One slow breath in, one slow breath out. Her next message came fast. She said his company had sent him a letter. Said he breached their code of conduct. Said they fired him. Now he was threatening to sue her. I read it twice, then replied with just one word. Karma. She didn't text back. On Sunday, I ran into a mutual friend at a local coffee shop. He leaned in close and asked if I had heard about Brandon. I asked him, which part? He told me Brandon was crashing on a friend's couch. Lost his job, lost his car, lost everything. I nodded. Then he said, Rachel tried to blame him for everything. But he dumped her, left her name off the lease. And now she was months behind on rent. I just shrugged. Luxury gets expensive when you stop lying. He laughed quietly. Said he'd never seen karma work that fast. Even though he knew I was hurting, he was still impressed by the precision of it all. Later that night, I got a message from a random number. It read, "You always were a bitter man, but now you're just petty." No name, no ID, no reply. I blocked it. Because peace feels better than a response. The next day, I met Nate for lunch. He handed me a paper bag. Said it was a victory donut. I asked, "What's the flavor?" He said, "Justice." I laughed. Asked, "Chocolate?" He said, "Filled with karma." I took a bite, then asked him, "So, what now?" He leaned back in his chair. "Now," he said, "now you heal. Slowly, honestly. You move forward. And her." He nodded. She spin her version. People like her always do. But the people who matter, they're not buying it. I stared down at my coffee. For a long time, I thought I wanted revenge. But now I'm just glad. She lost everything she built on my back. Nate nodded one more time. Told me let it fall. Because I'm not the one catching the rubble anymore. And the truth is, he was right. I wasn't. I didn't throw a party. There was no big moment. No dramatic ending. Just quiet. And that was enough. I moved out of the house 2 weeks after Maya finalized the protection order. Sold most of the furniture. Packed up my clothes. Left the crib on the sidewalk with a cardboard sign that read, "Free. Never used." An older couple drove by in a rusty truck. They loaded it slowly. I told them it came with great hopes. That was the truth. My new place is small, 1 bedroom, no nursery, just a desk, a bed, and silence. Nate came by with groceries. He tossed the bag onto the counter. He asked if I planned to eat real food this week. I asked him to define real. He pulled out spinach. I groaned. He laughed and reminded me. "I used to live off dollar ramen," I told him. "Yeah, before you watched me get conned into fatherhood by my wife's side piece." I put the kettle on, told him something felt weird. He asked, "What is?" I said, "I thought revenge would feel like fireworks, like something big. And now, it's just peace." He leaned against the counter and said, "Because you're not trying to win anymore." And he was right. I nodded. Then I said, "You ever notice how loud heartbreak is?" He tilted his head. Asked, "Loud," I said. "Every thought, every question. It's a roar in your head. What did I miss? What did I ignore? What did I deserve? And when it's over, really over, all that noise disappears. He stared at me for a second, told me I sounded like a therapist. I laughed, told him he was too cheap for therapy. He said he is, that he just processes his trauma in group chats. That night, I sat on the floor with music playing low. The playlist was made for late-night feedings. Funny how a man can miss something that never existed. Or maybe it wasn't her I missed. Maybe it was him. The version of me who believed in everything. The one who painted nursery walls with hope. The one who talked to a belly that never kicked back. He was naive, but he was kind. He deserved better. I whispered into the stillness. I hear you. I'm not erasing you. I'm becoming you again. With eyes wide open. Rachel emailed twice after the lawsuit settled. The first one was titled, "I know you'll never forgive me," but I deleted it. The second came a week later. No subject line. I opened it. She wrote, "You probably hate me, but thank you for showing me what real love looked like." She said she just wished she'd been worthy of it. I almost deleted that one too, but something in me softened, so I replied, "I hope you find what you're looking for, but I won't be the one you take it from." I hit send. Peace isn't loud. Sometimes it just arrives. The next day, a woman at the coffee shop smiled at me. I smiled back. We didn't talk. Not yet. But maybe someday. Not because I need someone to fix me. Just because maybe I'm finally someone worth meeting again. I stood at my mother's grave with a coffee in one hand and regret in the other. The headstone was simple, just how she wanted it. Laura E. Carter. Love loud. Forgive loud. Leave nothing unsaid. I hadn't been here in weeks. Not since I told her about the baby that never was. I sat down on the grass like I used to when I was a kid. Back then, I'd sit behind her at church, drawing superheroes on the back of the program. She used to say, "If you ever lose your way, talk to God or your mama." So I did both. "Hey Ma, I've got a whole mess to unload." There was no wind, no voices, just me and the sky. "You were right about people. You always said, don't love someone who needs to be convinced to stay." I stared up at the sunlight as it bled through the clouds. "But I did, Ma. I loved hard and dumb, and it crushed me." She faked it all, the pregnancy, the appointments, even the kicks. It wasn't a miscarriage. There was no baby. But you knew that part. What you didn't know was that she wasn't even pregnant with hope, Ma. Not hope, just plans. Plans to bleed me dry. I picked up a dry leaf and rubbed it between my fingers. You know what's crazy? I still talk to her sometimes. The baby, I mean, in my head. "Hi, sweetheart. Daddy's here." Real soft. And it hurts just saying it. But you taught me that grief doesn't need a body. It just lives where love used to. I closed my eyes. I've started over. I live near water now. It's quiet, peaceful. You'd love it. Nate comes by. I made him eat a salad last week. You'd love that too. There was silence again. Then I shook my head. You'd want me to forgive her. I know you would. You'd say hate is heavy. Put it down so you can run, and I hear you. I do. But sometimes, Mom, I still want to scream. Scream for the me who cried at her belly. For the letters I wrote. For the crib I built. For the lullabies I practiced like I had an audience. I stood up slowly and wiped my hands on my jeans. Then I remembered something. You once told me. Even if I only imagined the baby, I still became the kind of man who would have loved her. And that matters. That's real. On the way home, I passed the old house. A young couple was moving boxes into the garage. They saw me pause and smiled. The woman asked if they could help me. I told her no. I just lived there once. She smiled again, said it was a good house. I nodded. Yeah, it was built with love. She walked up with a diaper bag in her hand, asked me if I had kids. I hesitated, then smiled gently. Someday. That night, I pulled out the letter I wrote months ago. The one I had taped to the fridge, meant for a daughter who wouldn't come. I unfolded the paper. My words stared back. Dear Olivia, I don't know if you'll love science or music. I don't know if you'll like the stars or the sand. But I promise to be here. I promise to protect you. I promise to teach you what real love looks like, Daddy. I closed my eyes. I kept those promises. Even if you were only ever a dream. I folded the letter again. But not with pain this time. With peace. I slid it into a shoebox I keep in the closet. Because memories don't have to disappear. They just have to find a new home. Sometime after midnight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No name. Just a message. It said, I miss what we had. Not the lies. The safe parts. The quiet parts. I stared at it for a while. Then deleted it. Some ghosts don't need replies. Just a locked door to knock on forever. A week later, I stood at a beach trail overlooked. My therapist had recommended it. She told me, you don't have to name the pain, but give it somewhere to breathe. So I did. I wrote the baby's name in the sand, Olivia, and watched as the waves pulled it away. Like it was never there, but I was. And now, maybe, just maybe, I'm here for me. She faked a heartbeat, but I found mine again.